Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm Liam McCrafton Jr., aka Overall Chan Less Than Guru. Right here, we have Mars the Video Cat, and today I'm doing one of my updates about the games that I'm currently involved with playing and game mastering. And sometimes I throw in stuff I'm writing about. So, having said that, let's just dig in. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had quite a few switch ups and things like that. Let's start off with Torg. So, the Wednesday Torg game, which is through Roll, Hit, Die, and Torganized Play, we have started a new adventure. So, we finished up a couple months ago, Fires of Ra, and then we did a couple of shorter 1 to 2 act adventures to help one of the game masters through to organize play on getting multiple tables ran through a couple of his adventures so he could publish them on the Infiniverse Exchange. The Infiniverse Exchange is on DriveThruRPG. You can go into that. It is non-official but fan-made material, and that's how I got my start in writing for Torg Eternity. Is I put my ideas onto paper, spent the time, put it on the Infiniverse Exchange, and now I'm writing officially for Torg. So that's something that you can go and look at what is available. Everything from adventures to rules variations to more perks, Cosm cards, just lots and lots of ideas. Some just are layouts of new types of character sheets, things like that. The two products I have, one is an alternate Cosmverse that's kind of a middle ground between the original Torg and Torg Eternity, as well as some of the things that the players did in original Torg correctly, or the good guys win. In my games, they didn't win. So how that affects the game currently. As well as I also have a very small product, which is just a couple kind of like archetypes. Back in when Torg Eternity was just beginning, there was there's only I want to say about like 16 or so archetypes, and I threw out a few for that, so to have various ideas. So look at the Infiniverse Exchange. There is a lot of good stuff on it. And drop reviews. If something you like, put a review down. If you don't like it, put a review down. That's always helpful to all of us creators, so that we know what people are looking for. So that's with some of my writing stuff. With the actual Wednesday night game, we have started When Cosms Collide, which is a mega adventure 5 acts that was published at the same time as Isle. So I believe that would be the third wave after the source book: Living Land, Nile Empire, and Isle. Isle is a high fantasy game, and this one kind of deals with some of the mixed zones, Core Earth, Isle mixed zones, and how that can be interesting when you have axioms and world laws of different realities kind of colliding, and that's why it's called When Cosms Collide. So that is really fun. I am using my character Pierre, the Cyber Musketeer, and I had a lot of fun with him doing a little like 1 act here, a couple acts over here, things like that. I would have been very happy to take Ivan on it, my Tharkuldu scrapper, but he had too much experience at the time. So the game master wanted to keep it about 30 XP or higher. So I chose a similar-ish character, at least mechanic-wise, a up-close melee who can do some things at range, but having fun with that so far. And we're also playing on the Foundry. So I've never played Torg on the Foundry. If you've been watching my channel for any time now, you know that I started doing videos based off of showing how Torg could be played on Roll20. And about a year and a half ago, Roll20 was just frustrating me in various ways. It's still a fine platform. Anybody who wants to play it, I'm not saying that's bad. It's just wasn't appealing to me very well. But the Torg Eternity on Foundry wasn't so good at the time, but it's been developed a lot, and it's quite interesting and neat. There's a lot of stuff also I like about Foundry that you can add mods. There's if your system doesn't have something that you want, there might be mods out there, or you can write it if you know code. I don't. I can fake it sometimes. But having said that, it was really fun. Our Thursday game of A Trifling Matter completed. And the completion of that is what I did my last video on. Is it okay to call it? When do you call it? Things like that. But that was a very fun game. I'm very happy that I chose the character I did. I chose a very non-combative character. I did evidence analysis, find, very high mind, so any mind skill kind of was good to go off of. Occultist, always dealing with supernatural, so was able to use that to draw cards, or at least slip cards into my action pool. So that was very fun. When I play any type of horror game, I usually do kind of the opposite of what I normally like in high fantasy games, which is a good brawler, melee type character. I've noticed even sometimes my wizards tend to be into depending on the edition, the Blade Singer or Spell Sword, that type of wizard. But in horror games that are pretty much like Gothic horror, Call of Cthulhu, things like that, I tend to have a Billy Club rule, which is I don't pick up weapons or guns. If you pick up firearms and you shoot something, you think you're invincible, and you're probably going to end up dying. So my Billy Club rule is if I did play some type of brawler, then I would hit it with a club, and if it didn't stay down, then that's when I knew to run. This one I went even further, and I had no combat type of things. I was able to trick an interaction attack, help my party that way. I also had alchemists, so I was able to give people like dark sight and use liquid light to brighten up a room and certain things like that. So it was a fun character, very, very far away from what my typical Torg player character is. Normally I play a dumb melee fighter because when I'm playing a game, all those books right up there in my, up at the top, the Torg ones, those, I had a hand helping in some way or form, or in writing, or brainstorming, coming up with ideas, or just proofreading and pointing out errors and stuff like that. There's certain ones like A Trifling Matter that after I read the first act, I'm like, ooh, I really, really want to play this and want it to be a surprise, so I stopped reading after that. But a lot of them, just part of the freelance writing aspect of it, I have my fingers in it. So if I play a dumb fighter, then it's easy for me to ignore things or not use my out-of-character knowledge as a character. And I've been told I've been successful. You can watch Roll, Hit, Die episodes there and see if that is true or not. So that was what is going on with Torg. Now in Palladium, I am hopefully this week, maybe even today or tomorrow, here's Mars again, I'm going to post the last session, which wasn't yesterday Sunday, it was the previous week Sunday. It was a short session, and that's because sometimes getting my players to tell me what they want to do in a open world sandboxy type game, even though there are little hooks sprinkled around the setting, is like herding cats. And I was thinking I was giving very clear instructions, like, you can scrape by doing whatever skill you want to do to keep your place of residence, to keep your money safe, etc. What I need to know is if you have money and want to use that to train, are you going to do that? Or if you're an entertainer, are you going to go out there and earn coin more than what the scraping by is? And I kept getting things that were the scraping by and not the I want to do this. Also, there were all these plot hooks there, and people weren't telling me what they wanted to do. So they had just finished a plot hook, but we stopped before they went back to town. So then it was decided, are you staying here in Thunderspire Mountain? Are you going back to town? And basically the session was just me getting feedback from the players on what do you want to do. And I know sometimes that might sound bad. Wow, you must suck as a game master because your players aren't telling you what to do. At my age, which 1 week from today, I will be 49, the memory starts going a little, and people have responsibilities and other stuff going on in their life. And actually, it really doesn't matter what age you are. It's just some people can do it and some people can't. Also, it's just maybe some plot hooks are more interesting than other plot hooks. And or you, since we do it only every other week, there's some what were we doing? And then kind of catching up. Even the weekly tour, sometimes it was what were we doing? And kind of have to look around. So between those times, some groups can be right on target. Other groups you just have to kind of wrangle around with. And these are good friends of mine. Like I've said many times, we've been role playing for decades together. And 20 years ago, we would devote most of our free time to role playing. Now, free time goes to other things, except for me. I'm the game master, and I do role playing writing on the side. So, having said that, we did kind of it wasn't a shopping session, it was a bookkeeping session. Also with multiple characters for the same player. It was, I need some committed characters over here. When everybody shows up, we'll play this plot line. And when just few other characters show up, we'll play this over here. And if only one or two players are able to show up, we'll still play on some other tangents that are going around. So I have lots of plot hooks specifically for the amount of people who show up for that night. That's good to be able to play every Sunday unless something horrible happens. But it also means that there is even more time between what a specific character might be doing. So sometimes the players just need a little refresher in that. So that is my Palladium Nintir Veiled Mishmash rewrite. The last one now is, Earth Dawn. Earth Dawn just going swimmingly, going really awesome. I like Earth Dawn. We were heading towards an illusionist tower. I got some last minute writing I had to do, so the last session was canceled. That's why I didn't bring it up, but we are doing it this Friday, so I'm very excited to see how that goes. Now we'll go to Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark is a very, very interesting game, completely different than my normal comfort zone. I've talked about this before, how in the D&D 5th edition that we were doing, and the Game Master saw a new shiny and moved us on to Blades in the Dark, which is fine, perfectly legitimate. It's happened to me. It will happen to most Game Masters. If they find new systems and are not stuck just on, say, D&D 5th edition or whatever, they'll start looking at stuff and something will catch their eye. It might even be what this one is. The reason he made the 5th edition D&D setting and campaign was not quite following what his expectations were. The Blades of the Dark is a different type of setting, a different type of skill mechanics and game mechanics and things like that. So my personal opinion is this promotes that type of cooperative play a lot more than D&D 5th edition. Not saying at all that D&D 5th edition can't have cooperative play. I'm just saying, in Blades of the Dark, one of the characters is your crew. So there is a reason that you want to help your teammates, not just to get through an adventure so that you can level, but so that your crew can level up as well. We went through the whole session last night And I want to say the way they have it, there's different stages of the game. So the first part is like going out and just gathering information, trying to get hooks and things like that. We kind of all, different characters did things differently. Then we got to the everybody then meets, and we talk about all those hooks. And we chose to go on a person had a contact, one of our group members, the I don't know what their playbook is, kind of the bruiser type fighter character. We decided that their friend needed a favor. We decided that sounded like the most straightforward and simple plot hook to go to. We decided to use a stealthy approach. You kind of choose the approach. The fighter just got a meeting the next day. Myself, who is a lurk, which is a thief burglar, and the hunter, we went out and did some scouting, made 2 rolls, a success butt and a complete success without the butt. Basically, we got caught the hunter got caught casing the joint. I rolled the just complete success. Looked around ways to entering this house, this mansion area, and then the next day we came back. During that, we had 1 roll to get up to this into the house. I stealth prowled, I think is what it's called. I prowled inside, leading my people. Very interesting mechanic in Blade of the Dark. Unlike Torg, which you get help, and that help can hinder or help your what your bonus or penalty is to the leader, their role. In Blades of the Dark, the leader rolls first, or at least that's how we did it. I rolled first, and then after that, all the people I was leading in the stealth rolled, and I'm the one that took the shock if they failed, because I was successful, but it was, again, to use a term, like wrangling cats. So they were doing stuff, and it kind of was stressing me out, gave me a couple of points of stress. I thought that was a very interesting way to do things. And then the meeting was had. We had snuck down the chimney, and we got to a point where it was going to be a fight, and the 3 of us more either combative or at least being a rogue, I'm not combative. I'm a backstabber. I want to use prowl, not wreck or whatever the that skill thing is. I want to use prowl. I want to do backstabs from stealth, surprise, springing traps, stuff like that. Close combat is what the kind of part of combat and prowl is. So I jump out of the chimney and do a success with no butts, so a complete success. Then our fighter guy goes up against 2 people, and he crits, which is like double 6s. You roll a d6. 1 is like a horrible mishap. 2 and a 3 is a failure. 4 and a 5 are a success, but a 6 is a success, and when you roll multiple dice, if you roll multiple 6s, you get a crit. So critted, took out 2 of them. There was 1 opponent left, and our hunter came out and rolled 3 dice, and they were all 6. Yes, the mark of the beast, 666. And that was it. That was the whole setup. Took about 2.5 hours out of our normal 3-hour session. And then we did downtime, which is interesting because very much unlike Torg Eternity, shock and wounds do not just go away when there's that time. That whole calling it aspect that I talked about, how the long-term consequences aren't quite so good at calling it, that's something I would probably have to agree with in Blades in the Dark. But Blades in the Dark, you can just make a few rolls. So let's see. We had 2 scouting the place, 1 stealth to get in, and 3 in combat, which was about 1 round, what another game would call a round of combat. So 6 dice roll. That was it. That was the whole adventure, whole combat, whole encounter setup. And then afterwards, we rolled a couple of dice to heal our shock and stuff, but it doesn't all necessarily go away. We had a couple of people that have been wounded. They got wounded on our first mission and were wounded on this mission, had shock or stress on that first mission and still have stress after this one. That is interesting, but it works well in a game that doesn't have to be really, really long when a couple of dice rolls can determine the outcome. So that is really cool. It's a very much of a system with flashbacks. I used a flashback as example. I was scouting on the roof, scouting the chimney, went away. We came back the next day, and one of the players says, "Hey, does anybody have climbing gear?" Well, in Blades of the Dark, you don't have a set item list. You have an item list, and as you use stuff, you check it off, and that's what you happen to have brought with you. And depending on your loadout, you can be low or high. So we have a loadout normally of 3, but our crew gets one that adds 2 more, so we get a loadout of 5. One of us could have said, yes, we have. I have climbing gear, ticked it off. But I did a flashback instead, and I said, yeah, remember yesterday when I climbed up there on the roof? So, well, I coiled up a rope, and I had a little string hanging off of it that can't really be seen, so I yanked the string and pulled the rope back. Boom, that happened. I took, I think, a point or 2 of stress to have that done, and then we didn't have to worry about taking up a gear slot. So that is the stuff that I talked about before, is kind of against my normal like of exploration. I don't like adding stuff to the game, but this was something that the previous day in game when I was up there, I thought, oh, I could probably ask the game master, hey, can I put a climbing rope up here, and I'll tick it off for tomorrow. But I thought, no, let's go with the game mechanics, and I'll just say that when if it comes up, because things can often not go according to plan, and I don't necessarily want to use one of my resources if it doesn't have any use for the game. Didn't need it, did a flashback, took care of it. Again, very different than how I normally like the exploration, but Blades of the Dark is, for me, there's a lot of social, and that's the main thing. Social with your crew, social with your contacts, those who you like, those how you don't like. There's a whole list of all the different factions in the city and what relationships you have with them, and that's kind of the play style. So yes, I really, really enjoyed it, and that's why I say sometimes look at games and systems that are a little bit out of your range. You might end up enjoying them. It might not change your mind. In other games, you still might be really, really for what you normally are, but every once in a while, having a small difference in there can be cool. So that will kind of be my summary for my updates on thoughts and stuff that I've had in my games and how they are up to this point. So having said that, once again, I'm Liam McCracken Jr., aka Zorvald Child Less Than Guru, and until next time, I will catch you later.